G'day, people. Brad Houston here. Mondays at Moffs, episode 5. Apologies, we are a little bit late. Technical issues always keeping us on our toes, but I'm sure that people will hopefully have some forgiveness. And I know most of you guys watch this on the repeat anyway, so from that perspective, it's sort of somewhat irrelevant, but nonetheless. So this is it's kind of funny actually, like last week's technical challenges that we had that ended up meaning that I couldn't run the interview with Diana at the Moffat Beach Motel because her telco provider, we won't name any names, just major carrier. So they let us down there. So she was having issues in the business. So I ended up just doing that freelance, kind of went and did a bit of a choose your own adventure look around the Moffat Beach area, which was, I guess a bit of a treat for the people over in Canada and the US. They like to see me put my feet in the water, and it wasn't terrible for me either. Obviously I love the beach and the inlet and that iconic house. And by the way, like if anybody, and particularly if someone's watching, I'd really love to know who lives in that place. I'm sure there's probably a story in it. And I was actually saying to my wife last night, we went for a walk on the headland. It was a bit stormy. You get to the view, you look down over the Moffat Beach, and for guys overseas, you'll have seen some of these images. It's a beautiful view, and that house is quite iconic. I think it would be very different to not have it there. Anyway, nonetheless, so when I was doing that wander, I thought, I'll go through the rainforest sort of cutting. And as I was going through there past the post office, I then noticed a couple of new businesses or businesses that I hadn't seen before, and one of them was Peddlar Bikes. So when I came back from that walk, I popped in just to say g'day and ended up having a chat with Ailie. And she's really lovely. So I'm sure it's going to be a good conversation. She's got an interesting story, having been a professional athlete in the past and now here to provide us all with bikes and advice when it comes to cycling or for, hardcore training for any of you super fit people out there. So look, let's get her in here and we can find out more. G'day, Ailie. How you going?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I'm just going to boost this volume here a little bit so I can hear you better. So, look, obviously I know a little bit of the story, but for everybody else who hasn't had a chance to meet you yet, perhaps you can start with, I guess, giving a little bit of an intro, who you are, what you've done in the past, and then I guess what you're doing now.
Great. Thanks, Brad. My name's Ailie Payne, as Brad has mentioned. My husband and I have been living up here on the Sunshine Coast for almost 3 years now after moving from Melbourne. Ben's originally from New Zealand, so we don't hold that against him. But we decided to, we were ready to start a family, decided that we couldn't think of a better place than here to do that. So, we made that move. It was carefully planned. As I say to people, we sort of started looking on the New South Wales border and went up to Noosa and ended up in Caloundra. So we chose this as our place to reside. Just that amazing community feel that it has is what attracted us. And then we're both surfers and cyclists and, triathletes and things. So what better place than here with its beach culture and its active lifestyle and things like that. So that's what brought us to the Sunshine Coast and particularly Caloundra. And look, we now have 2 kids. We had a 4-month-old when we started, but we now have 2 kids who absolutely love the beach. So we're there daily. And it's just been a really great place for me to continue with my triathlon coaching. And then we saw a little bit with the drop-off with that lovely COVID-19, we saw a drop-off in the triathlon coaching slightly with a lot of events cancelled. And as a result of that, decided that it was time to put time and energy into a bike shop because it's a massive passion of mine. And I was seeing a lot of people who sort of weren't able to get that expert advice on road and triathlon and that sort of thing. And even just families trying to get out there and commute and be active. One of my key things being a triathlon coach and owning a bike shop is just seeing more people out there in this amazing environment, amazing weather, getting out there and being active and enjoying what we have to offer here on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, that's awesome. So from a surfing perspective, just out of curiosity, are you a goofy or natural foot?
I'm not a great surfer. My hubby is an amazing surfer, and he gets out as many times as he can a week. But I dabble. I'm usually riding the bike. It's always a toss-up. I go, am I going to ride or am I going to go for a surf? So when I do get out there, I'm a goofy footer. At the moment, I'm contained to longboards because I don't do enough of it to be able to shortboard anymore. So it's kind of perfect just to duck down the road here at Moffs and go. However, with two businesses and, two kids that were under 2 as of, a couple of months ago, I don't have a lot of free time to get out there and surf anymore. Yeah,
that's very understandable. I know, I know what you're talking about. It is pretty tricky. I've just sort of started to try and get back into it. I think I maybe even mentioned to you that I've been having a crack at the stand-up paddleboard, and I'm just loving that at the moment. So that's kind of got me. That's got me excited. I need to save my pennies so I can actually buy like a better board and see how that goes, because the board I've got was this flight job from Anaconda, and and it's probably not even supposed to go in the surf, but I've still managed to. I've been able to catch a few waves on it, but it's a bit of a boat, so I think something with a bit more of a rail and that's maybe not as buoyant might be slightly better on the face of the wave. Anyway, we'll see. So that's exciting. So from a cycling perspective, because I think it's something that's really important for people to know, when you talk about not just being, a triathlete sort of, or a performance sport shop. That's obviously your background, and I'd love to dig into that a little bit more. But do you guys cover a spectrum of bikes? And I guess, you're able to kind of cater to, everybody from just the basic casual sort of family rider through to sort of pro athletes?
Yeah, well and truly. Look, especially given our location, we chose this location because of the mix of people that come here. Those upper end people are going to come to the store based on the quality of the service they're going to get, mechanic wise and things like that. So we get a lot of high end cyclists who come specifically for our mechanic. However, the Moffat Beach location for us was about families and getting people out there and getting active. We've got amazing pathways that head, towards Kings all the way around to Pelican Waters. You can go the other way right up to Watala, and that's all on the path. And you can ride 50K on a path here and see beautiful beaches, amazing coffee shops, all of those sorts of things. So it really was about maximising the access to those locations and just ensuring that people had a really good option. The other part that can't go unmentioned is, we've got one of the best mountain bike facilities here in the Sugar Bag Road trails. So that's also huge. While we don't specialise in mountain bikes, there's 2 really great stores in town that do that already. So I thought I'm not going to concentrate my energy on what's already being done. However, we do service and sell some mountain bikes, specifically if you want to come in and order. So really we cover the whole spectrum. So, being a small store, we need to stick with what we know, so to speak. So we do have the road and triathlon and commuters on the floor, but can do anything here.
Yeah. And so, for a family cyclist, because this is something I'm interested in myself, I told you that, I've just got a Kmart clunker at the moment. It's
mentioned Anaconda before. I think Anaconda and Kmart and Target probably keep us in business, so to speak. When people walk in the door and go, oh, I bought this bike, and so we go, okay, yep, we'll fix it.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like I have hopped on some other people's bikes at different times, and I've gone, oh my goodness, okay, I think I get why everybody's, because I've got some friends who got right into it, and just the weight difference. So, and just like taking off, it's just, yeah, it's so much easier. So I'm like, oh, and having slick tires as opposed to having your knobbly sort of mountain bike tires.
So many people riding around the paths here with their mountain bike tires and their shocks and things like that. And if you've only got the money for one bike, that's, perfectly fine. But if you are looking at cruising and you are looking at going along the paths and literally taking in all that we have to offer in that regards, as you say, there's, different horses for different courses, I think is the saying. And I think that's something that we really try and do well here. We don't just sell you any bike. We listen to what you actually need and go, oh, great, well, we can get this in or this in, because that's what you actually need. And the other day I had someone come in thinking they wanted a mountain bike, but when I listened to them, they wanted to ride with their kids and along the paths and things. And I threw him on one of the bikes here, and he rode down the road, come back and bought it because he went, oh, wow, that's actually really nice to ride, and it rolls, and, it had slicker tires and things like that, but still thick enough to deal with the different terrain. So that's really what we're trying to do here is actually get people on the right bikes, because you go out on the wrong bike and you end up not enjoying it. You put it back in the garage and you don't leave again. So I'd rather people end up on the right bike. It's a little bit like, you're saying with your surfboard, at the moment it is a bit of a boat and things like that. And if you had the next one that was actually specific to what you needed, you'd use it more. So that's exactly the same with, any leisure product, bikes, surfboards or otherwise. You need the bike to go with your whatever your intended use is.
Yeah. So from that perspective, tires. What are the factors that people are normally looking at? Is it the weight and the quality of the frame, or are we talking about the thickness of the tires? Because that was what I thought. I don't think I would need like the racing sort of thin tires. I think I'd need something more like a cruising kind of thing. So what are those kind of variables?
There's a bike that's it's been around for 10, 15 years for cyclocross racing, and they've now sort of slightly changed that to create gravel bikes. Now, what gravel bikes are is they look like a road bike. They've got the same geometry, so they ride really nicely, but they can fit bigger wheels on them, so bigger tires on them, and what you can do is you can put road tires on them and ride it like a road bike, or you can put fatter tires on them because they have a bigger frame. You can actually get the clearance and you can go for a ride. I put the kids' trailer behind mine, so I might be riding it in a bunch during the week, and then I change the tires on it and I tow my son behind it in his cart. So that's a gravel bike, and they are pretty much the be all and end all at the moment for people that don't quite know what they want their bike for, because they can do anything on it just with a simple change of tyre. Okay.
What sort of price tag are we looking at for those guys?
They start around the 1,200 and go up to about the 7,000 plus. So as usual, there's different levels of different things. Generally, if you want a good one that's going to last you the next 15, 20 years, you'll look around the $2,000 to $2,500 mark. However, the $1,000 mark can also get you if you're just planning on using it as a commuter, but also want it to be nice and fast. You don't always want to be slow or always want to be going on paths. You want to spend a bit of time on the road. You can get out of it for a reasonable price. Once again, what you pay is what you get. But we're definitely not that Kmart level of quality. So even your cheaper version of bike here is going to last you 5-10 years.
Yeah, better cycling experience, as well as, I guess, not having so many issues in terms of breakdown and what have you. So look, let's wind the clock back, because I'm always really interested in people's backstory. I think it's great to give the context in terms of some of this stuff on the cycling side of things, but also really interested in talking about you, and because as I mentioned to you, and for anybody who's tuning in, but one of the main reasons that I decided to do this Mondays at Moffs series was one, I love meeting new people myself, and I'm only still relatively new. I've been here a couple of years because I've been working, here in the office from home. I haven't necessarily met that many people. I've met a few of the different business owners and what have you, but so it's kind of nice for me to actually get a chance to have a talk to different people in town. And also I wanted to give back in some sort of way. So, just try and do something that's free and that could help people, particularly at the moment, with people, I guess, finding it potentially a bit harder with COVID, and needing a bit more exposure. And I kind of think if we all get behind each other, share the show with our social networks, then it gives people a broader reach, and hopefully they have people who get to know that they exist and there. And then the other part is fostering community. Really, I thought it's a good opportunity to to build a bit more sort of community engagement. So, it's nice for everybody to understand who each other are, what the stories are, and I feel like we can kind of get to know each other a little bit more from that sort of regard. So, look, let's tempt fate here technology-wise and see if we can share or try and do a little share screen, because we wanted to show a bit of your professional background.
Feels like a former life now.
So let's try and expand that. Oops. Just bear with me. Can you still see me?
Yes, we can see you still.
Let's see if we can. Can you hear this?
Yeah, I think the sound's a bit of an issue.
Sound's not working?
No.
It's
working, it's just not clear.
Oh, okay. You can't hear it clearly. Okay. Well, we'll jump out of there and maybe just have a little
bit of what that is. Anyway, look, that's basically, I've been doing triathlon for about 10, 15, well, now 20 years. Okay, I always lose count of how old I'm getting. So,
yeah.
Sometimes you go, oh, yeah, I've been doing this for this many years, and you go, oh, no, it's actually far more than that. So, look, I grew up in a small country town where all we did was sport. So it was essentially in my blood, as they say. And yeah, ended up taking up triathlon and loving it. I was already swim coaching. I've been a swim coach my entire life. And it was just a natural progression into the coaching side of it. Oh, that's swimming at World Championships in Hawaii. It was really horrible being there, in the gorgeous water, swimming with the turtles and dolphins and things like that. So, but yeah, it's, I was doing Ironman for a number of years after, progressing through the sprint ranks, sprint distance, Olympic distance, did world champs at the half Ironman distance, and went, oh, what's next? So, Ironman, got a little bit disillusioned with the Ironman space, having to maintain that pro level, and, I was working and things like that. So just to correct, I was never a professional. I was called what they call an elite age group athlete. So, you place in the top, but you don't actually have a professional license. So I still had a full-time job. At one stage I was, studying my master's, president of Triathlon Victoria, racing, Ironman, plus had a full-time management position at a TAFE and University College. So I've always been quite busy, but yeah, sort of wanted to get out of that space a little bit and, start to help other people with their coaching, and a massive inspiration to me. And it was actually who that interview was a coach of mine, Craig Percival, who did 8 Ironmans in 8 days in 8 states and territories as a charity event. And he got me into this sport called Ultraman, which is a 3-day event. It's a 10K swim, 145K ride on day 1. Day 2, 275K ride, and day 3 is an 84K run. And this is after my 84K run on day 3 of the first ever Ultraman in Australia up at Noosa. And I managed to cross the line first that day, take second place overall because one of the other girls rode faster than me on day 2. But I managed to cross first female this day. And this is Craig, who inspired me to, number one, I actually took, he unfortunately passed away from a surgery complication. So his wife handed me his business, and that's where the No Limits Endurance coaching has come from.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a big story
Amazing.
there as well. So just to continue on that legacy, and then I now coach people both all around Australia and internationally for particularly ultra endurance events. I volunteer coach here with the local triathlon club, and yeah, it's even just this morning I was coaching adult swim squad down at the aquatic centre. So coaching is a huge part. I'm no longer a professional athlete, but I still dabble. I've got next year I've just signed up for a 20k swim around Great Keppel Island, which I'm a little bit excited about. So that's my next goal.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, for me, someone who hasn't really been in a swimming pool, from that sort of perspective, it's very daunting. I mean, it's something I definitely just wouldn't and couldn't do. But I love the concept of doing it. And I don't know, I really like things where I guess people are doing stuff or you get to do something just the average person hasn't done. You know what I mean? When I was in climbing or doing, climbing, and that was definitely not professional. That was just recreational. But I don't know. I really liked kind of climbing up the Glasshouse Mountains, and one of the climbs we do there, you top out inside one of the caves up there, and it's just an amazing view. Like you can see all the way pretty much from probably up to Fraser Island, to Brisbane on a clear day, literally like the whole spectrum of coastline. And because they're kind of a strange formation, the way they just pop out of the ground, and then you've got open space all around you. So it was cool just to take like a little snack bar for lunch or something and sit in the cave there and just look out and think, there aren't too many people who've probably been in this exact spot, So I don't know. Do you get a buzz out of that sort of thing?
Oh, well and truly, it's I think that's why I lost interest in Ironman a little bit myself. Was I went, everybody's doing this now. What else is there? And as I said, that was the first event, the first Ultraman there was in Australia. I'm still one of the first 100 females to have completed Ultraman, which I'm pretty excited about. I held course record for however many years, and they're small things, but they do make a difference. That you're going out there and doing things that other people haven't done. So, and it's not an ego thing. It's just pushing the boundaries. What else? My company's called No Limits Endurance. What else is there? What else can we do? Just to keep life interesting, I suppose. What is it? If you stop, you die, they say. So keep going and work out what the next awesome thing is. That and look where we live. I mean. There's, you were just talking about the mountain climbing. We've got beaches, we've got endless roads, we've got amazing weather, we've got mountains, we've got bushland, we've got rivers. You literally could not ask for a better playground for people who like to be outdoors and do those sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's way better than just knocking around the suburbs. I know, living in Brisbane for 20 years before we came up here. And there are some great cycleways, and the city's done a pretty good job of, the way that sort of connects, and you get to see, some little kind of creekways and things like that. But then there are sort of sometimes segments where you just, running through roadways or, through neighbourhoods, and it never really floated my boat very much. Whereas, when you can actually see things, it's pretty awesome. And like you were saying, like that ride, because I go around there I did the ride with my daughter not that long ago, from where we are at Moffat, just around to Kings Beach, and she's only 9, and it was achievable. I think from Shelley Beach up onto that little patch there.
That wonderful hill that you've got there.
Yeah, she had to push the bike, and I've got to admit, I was kind of relatively happy to hop off and push the bike up the hill myself. So that was a good excuse. Good excuse for that sort of thing. So what kind of what are you doing in terms of preparation for this 20K? Did you say Great Keppel Island?
Yeah, Great Keppel Island. Swim around. Well, I actually, it's a long story, but unfortunately,
we've got time.
Yeah, we've got time. Unfortunately, after the birth of my son, Harvey ended up with some birth injuries, and unfortunately, nobody's actually worked out how to repair them at this point in time. So I've torn a muscle off internally that can't be reattached. There's some therapy work being done by a surgeon in Melbourne who I'm linked up with, and I'm hoping 3 or 4 years time I'll be. But I can't run anymore, which is a big deal. Was part of also okay, well, what's next? Given I can't be a top level triathlete anymore, so that's when we sort of went, well, yep, let's go have a family and have another child and grow the business, start a new business, all of that sort of thing. So throwing myself into something else, but I still really miss that competitive side and the training side. I'm so involved with it through my athletes that I wanted to be doing it again. So I needed to choose something that was pretty epic but not involving running, and everything I wanted to do had running. So I went, what's really going to challenge me? Part of my 3-day racing is 10K swimming, and I find it relatively easy to swim a 10K. So I thought what's really going to challenge me is this 20K swim. And, there's so much planning for it. I don't just love the actual physical act of doing it. It's the planning for it, the training for it, making, got to get your support crew ready, the travel there, all of those sorts of things. So I think for me, the appeal of something like that was how much work needs to go into it. You don't just turn up and do it. So it's challenging sometimes, to find something that spark. What are they? Very Marie Kondo, sparks joy. For me, a 20K sparks joy. For someone else, it sparks terror. But for me, that's how I roll. So short of cycling in Australia, which I don't have time to do, there wasn't much else that was that level of challenge that I could still have time to train for with the businesses and the kids and things like that. So
I think we talked about it when I was in the store, but I think it's really great to have something, that you're kind of working towards and that you're training for. It gives you that sort of extra motivation. I don't know, I've found in my own sort of personal journey that if I don't have something like that it's a lot harder to then do the other kind of exercises and to eat healthy and all that sort of thing. So I think it's a healthy thing to do that, so I think, some people who haven't really gotten hardcore with the sport and I suppose gone after it in that sort of way, maybe I think it's that's something that's probably a good thing if you've never done it to perhaps think about something like that you might want to try and tackle. And it's
big for you, and it doesn't have to be, you don't compare yourself to other people. A 5K run for someone who can't run can take a year to reach, and you do it amazingly, and it's a huge achievement. And it drives me mad when people go, I just ran 5K. It's like, no, you didn't just do it. You ran it. You did 5K. You've never been able to do that before. So for you, it's about choosing a challenge that's appropriate for you.
Yeah, exactly right. And I love that no limits element as well. That's one thing I suppose that I've been surprised by and still continue to be surprised by is just how far we can come as people from a lot of perspectives, mentally and physically. But like I know, like even when I first got on the stand-up paddleboard, I was able to stay on it because I always had pretty good balance. So, even with the, not being able to feel my right foot and what have you, I could still manage to stay on for most of the paddle. But like when I went into the ocean, it was a whole different ball game. I'm just like falling off left, right and center. And it was kind of embarrassing because I'm thinking like these other guys are just going, what is going wrong with that guy? But anyway, I'll just try to keep your ego in check.
Yeah, if you choose something that you can already do, it doesn't motivate you to work towards doing it. It's not just about sport, it's about life. Imagine if we turned up at our job every day and went, I know what I'm doing. I'm bored senseless. It's not satisfying. So the same as, a goal, if you go, well, I got really good at stand-up paddleboarding on the flat. So what's next? And I think that's why surfing appeals to so many people, because it's so different every time you go out. Which way the wind's blowing, is it a groundswell, is it all of those sorts of things, is it onshore, is it offshore, it actually makes you go, oh great, I've actually got something that I need to think about and work towards. It's a challenge, whereas if goals aren't challenging in business, in life, in sport, they don't motivate you to do the work.
Yeah, exactly right. You mentioned that you grew up in a country town. Whereabouts were you?
In Victoria, in a place called Caston, in a town of 1,200 people. So very small farming community. And yeah, it was really, there was nothing to do other than sport. So, you played netball, you played basketball, you were part of the swimming club. We had horses, so we rode horses. We played a bit of polocrosse. We did pony club and show jumping. You were on a farm, so you went out and fed the animals and did chores and, all of those sorts of things. So, it was just embedded in what the small town does. Just grew up doing that. And, even just, I started swim coaching when I was in high school, coaching kids I'd run the junior swimming program for the primary school as part of my high school, assessments in PE and things like that. So it really just developed from there, and then right through uni with swim coaching and swim teaching. I've worked in gyms. I've done a lot of strength and conditioning. I've worked with some AFL clubs on that. Just gone right through that fitness journey. And yeah, it's just been a part of my life since, day dot. My dad and my mum were both swim coaches as well. So we grew up at the pool and grew up at the beach basically.
Yeah, I love that. I grew up in the little country towns in New South Wales myself, actually. My dad was a primary school principal, so we kind of migrated sort of every 2 to 3 years. And we lived, I don't know where Caston is, but we lived at a place called Finley at one stage down, and that's near the Victorian border.
Yeah.
Near Tokenwall. You've got Tokenwall, Shepparton.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so where would Casterton be in relationship
to south of Shepparton. It's 30 minutes from Mount Gambier in South Australia, about an hour from Hamilton, an hour from Portland. So pretty close to the border. They're currently in a bit of a difficult situation down there where they were deemed the distance from the border. They had a line through the middle of town where some people were allowed to go to South Australia and some weren't. So everyone and go their separate ways. And it's been quite challenging down there. But that's how close to the border it is. It's one of those small communities. People with farms have paddocks on both sides of the border. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so they're not allowed to. They've deemed them being allowed to cross, but it's certainly a challenging time for those people. But yeah, it was a wonderful place to grow up in terms of that small community, which I think is what attracted us to here. While it's a bigger place, the community, particularly down here at Moffs, is just amazing. We've essentially been adopted. The moment we opened the doors of the shop, I had people coming in going, "Oh, it's great that we've now got a bike shop." So that was a really nice, unexpected part of opening here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I think maybe I like about it as well, and maybe why I'm sort of have that element of wanting to do my own part, even though I'm still a bit of a newbie. To help foster and further that community, maybe because of those sort of small town roots, where people like kind of know each other. Everyone's pretty down to earth, and I kind of love that sort of thing. So, are your parents still down there?
So my parents are separated and they both live on the border though. So dad's at Nelson and mum's in Mount Gambier, but works in Casterton. So she's had to stop working in Casterton and just work in Mount Gambier. And dad was living in Nelson, which is Victorian side of the border, but working in Mount Gambier. So it's all just very confusing. They've all had to, give up certain jobs and things like that and take leave and, stay in their lane, so to speak, while the borders are all closed and things like that. So I completely understand the reasoning behind it, but it's certainly very sheltered here. My sister's in Melbourne at the moment, and she's been, affected by the lockdown significantly. And all my family members are constantly, every conversation's about, where they're at because of COVID, and up here where I say, I disinfect the shop, a couple of times a day, and I have some hand sanitizer. And at the moment that's, and if I get a cold, I go get a COVID test. That's the extent of what we're dealing with here at the moment. Every now and then it gets a bit scary again, but it's sometimes hard to imagine how other people are living when we've got such a great little space here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy thing. I mean, it's sort of, like we're getting on now into September. So like I was just wondering myself, like, how long is this going to go on? Is it going to come back again? It's just nobody saw it coming. But I mean, one of the positives, I guess, has come out of it is this sort of thing. I think I mentioned to you that I got inspired to do this because I was watching Coach Jay. So there's this guy in the States. Lots of people probably know Gary Vee. Gary Vee, it does a lot of stuff in the social media space and become a bit of a thought leader, or a massive thought leader. He used to travel the world speaking about social media and just doing business in the new world. And he started doing this Tea from Gary Vee thing where he was interviewing people from home in this sort of format. And he had this guy come on, Coach Jay. Coach Jay, you could tell from the moment he was talking, he was just he's probably sort of, my kind of age, around that 40 bracket, and just a really kind-hearted, genuine dude. He's a personal trainer, so that the coach piece has that relevance, but he also wanted to, he's been through some hard stuff in his life, and he wanted to, I guess, try and make use of that and empower other people. And so he started doing he was live streaming 2 times a day. At one stage he was live streaming in the morning, doing like a show sort of series, a bit like this, and then at night time, which is actually our kind of midday, he would often end up going live, and the people would be kind of chilling and just drinking their wine and having a chat. That's where I kind of got to know them, because I would sort of sometimes pop on and just see what was happening. And it's been funny, because then I was just actually got to know people overseas, and have built some great relationships with people off the back of social media, which I just didn't see really as a thing. In the past, I didn't understand the way that you could actually create a genuine community of people. It's kind of cool.
Well, isn't it? Even when I was looking at opening the business, I went, how am I going to approach marketing? Obviously there's some established shops in Caloundra already, and I went, oh, hold on, how are people going to find out about me? And it really is social media is the answer, because we don't have much print media anymore. In this area, people don't need to be in their cars all that often, so radio is not as effective as it might be in a city area where people are spending a long time commuting. We're pretty lucky that it takes you 15 minutes to get anywhere, unless you get stuck on Caloundra Road. But we've got access here to such amazing facilities and resources that we don't have to spend hours commuting. So I went, well, how am I going to advertise? There's no papers, there's no radio, I personally don't watch TV, so I sort of don't even think of that as a medium for the types of people that often come into the shop. So it's, for me, social media is your way to engage with the community. And it's not just about advertising, because part of opening this store was actually being able to speak to people about their journey of why are you riding a bike, where are you going, what do you want to do next. I run cycling education clinics where we work with juniors on road safety and general maintenance of your bike and looking after your bike. And then I'm doing one senior group that it's about, I say, seniors reclaiming the road and getting out there on your bike and being confident enough to go for coffee rides and create their own community again, because I think a lot of people detach from their community when perhaps their partner passes away, or they move, or they might have some mobility issues. But the good part about bikes is there's no impact. You don't need to worry about your sore knee or your sore back or those sorts of things. So really just working on that community aspect, and part of that is exactly what you're talking about. We're here, well, not just with the face-to-face community, but the digital community. And I continue to offer up all educational bits and pieces, on my coaching page and things. The amount of people that engage with the educational posts I put on there is pretty amazing. And you can just give so much without anyone needing to, pay you and all those sorts of things.
So with regards to that, would you still have a lot of people, I guess, from your kind of earlier days who are connected in on that Facebook page, or have you found people up here have jumped on there as well? Like, what's your kind of mix of
Yeah,
people?
so it's certainly shifting towards up here now, starting to create a bit of a profile locally and Queensland based. So I still coach a lot of, I've got some Melbourne, some Sydney athletes, got a few New Zealanders, I've got one UK athlete, one US athlete, you know, a bit of a mixture there, but increasingly starting to coach athletes up here as I build that profile and things like that. And it's really the synergy of the shop and the coaching's been amazing. I have athletes come in, pop in and have a chat about what they need to do for their sessions and things like that. And, you know, while they're in here, they're able to get what they need. They grab their nutrition or, you know, some spare tubes or whatever it may be. So it all just ties in really well together.
Yeah, definitely. So what's the peak number of people that you could be training before you'd have to get somebody else to kind of step in to help you?
Our pipeline dream is that, you know, one day we can both be working in here and hand the family on, hand the business onto our kids would be our ideal world. At the moment, we're a very small business. That's, you know, pie in the sky, you know, 5-10 years down the track, depending how it all goes. But the moment,
you have those goals, don't you?
What's that? Sorry,
you got to have those goals that you're talking about. You know, having the things you're kind of aiming for, and then, you know, I guess, potentially surprising yourself in terms of where you can get to.
Yeah, so in terms of face-to-face athletes, 20 is really my limit that I can, because I need to sit down and write a program for them, and I write that every week. It's based on what they do. You know, people will say, okay, Tuesday night I've got a birthday party, so I can't train. It's my husband's birthday, or, you know, I actually have one athlete, funnily enough, that watches American football, and he sent me an email to say, okay, from the 14th of September, every Monday morning, I'm going to be watching American football. Can you please program around that? So that's the sort of stuff I do. It's very engaged with those athletes. You know, I track their data daily, write their program accordingly. We fit their goal races in, things like that. So 20 is that number, but then you've got all the space, the other side, to do the face-to-face coaching. I do a lot of, you know, private swim sessions and, you know, take people out for a ride and teach them how to ride, run. At the moment, I've got, you know, 3 athletes that I do regular running for. Just, you know, finished with a grant from the Queensland government doing run clinics, and that was fantastic as well, so just for some local user groups. So basically it's, you know, I'd love to be doing both pretty extensively. I take Tuesday, Thursday off. That's my mum day. So at the moment the shop isn't open on Tuesday, Thursdays. We're about to employ a full-time mechanic, so they will be able to open the shop on those days. However, that's my time to spend, you know, exclusively with the kids rather than being rushed mum. I love those days. You know, it's nice to have that bit of diversity. You're either in the bike shop or you're coaching or you're mumming or whatever it may be. So, I count myself as pretty lucky to be in this situation.
Yeah, well, but I mean, at the same time, you know, you've engineered it, right? Like it's sort of, like I was putting out a post on Instagram earlier, just sharing some stuff I just did. It was yesterday, Father's Day. So we went, it was a bit kind of stormy. We're like, we need to get out of the house, get some exercise. My wife kind of goes stir crazy if she doesn't go outside the house at some point in the day. I probably would cope. But anyway, I also do enjoy getting outside. So we're like, okay, we'll do that. And we just thought, I'll just go for a walk along the headland. And it's still really beautiful, even when it's when it's stormy. Like, it's nice to see the ocean in a variety of different forms. Anyway, so I did some little video of that, put a little compilation together, and I kind of, sometimes I feel torn when I'm posting stuff because I don't want to be like doing that whole braggy sort of things. I have like shot some stuff with just amazing sunsets and just spectacular scenery. And so I kind of thought I'll balance it out so people can sort of see. But then I was still looking at it going, it's still really beautiful. Sometimes I put like #blessed or things like that in there. But then at the same time, I was thinking, well, but we've made it happen. You know, we've made the decision to just make the leap, and it's not impossible. Like, you know,
I have so many friends say, you're so lucky. Look, like, you're a triathlon coach, you're following your dream. You've just opened a bike shop, and people in my world think that opening bike shop is the pinnacle of life. While you don't make a whole lot of money, you get to live bikes every day. I mean, I come to work, I work on bikes, and I watch the Tour de France, and I get to talk to people about riding. So, I mean, I cannot think of a better thing. It's perfect. However, this didn't happen. Like, we had to work really hard to make this happen. We bought a crappy house in Melbourne. We renovated it while I was pregnant. We were both working full time, big jobs. I had, a management position. I used to run Victorian Teachers Games, but I was also coaching on the side, so that we could sell that house, buy a house up here. We bought a couple of years before we moved up. Once we'd done the research, this is all hasn't just happened. It hasn't fallen into our life. And the amount of Victorian friends at the moment that go, oh, you're so lucky to live up there. And you go, yeah, we are lucky, but we made it happen. I mean, we lived at the caravan park for 2 months. I had the dog. I had a 4-month-old baby because Ben's job had started, and our tenants weren't out of our house yet. So we were in a camper van, and it was in the middle of it was just one of the worst stormy seasons Octobers they had, and it was horrible. So, it hasn't happened easily. We've just opened a business in the middle of a pandemic. We wanted it to be bigger. We wanted it to look slightly different, but this is what we were able to do. We're very much, both Ben and I, you just make stuff happen. I often hashtag make it happen. If you want something, go out and get it. Don't be reckless, but find a way, calculate the risk, put together your resources, including other people, and work out how you're going to make it work.
Yeah, 100%. I've noticed that Chef Blake has joined us. This is one of the guys. He's actually an Aussie guy. G'day, Blake. He's in Melbourne, actually, funnily enough. So, yeah, I met him through Coach Jay, and I've tuned in to some of the stuff that he's up to, and he's really been, pushing himself pretty hard, taking part in some of these crazy fitness challenges. I don't know. You might want to put a comment in, Blake, but I think he did some ridiculous, like 1,000 reps in an hour or something. I don't know. It was this compilation of different exercises that all had. So it was like 20 reps of one exercise and 20 reps of another exercise, or I don't know. What was the number? We'll see whether he's actually tuning in, if he's actually paying attention.
One of my Melbourne athletes had 2 Ironman races. She was meant to do her first Ironman race, Port Macquarie Ironman, and then that was cancelled. So she's entered Busselton, but they don't think they're going to be able to get into WA in December. So we went, what are we going to do? And so I set her an indoor trainer challenge where she sits on the bike trainer. She's just yesterday, shout out to Kristen, she just climbed Mount Everest on the bike. It took her 14 hours on a stationary trainer indoors. And she just did that yesterday. Like, just because, once exactly what we're talking about, you got to have goals. You got to keep working towards something. So she was essentially she was a cyclist, but a triathlete, but not a strong cyclist. Running was her thing. And I went, well, let's use this time to build on your strength, on your weakness, and actually make it a strength. And she climbed 8,400 and whatever it is meters yesterday on a stationary bike.
Wow, that's so cool. As Blake saying, 1,000 reps was the last day of the 31-day Coach J challenge. I saw it.
Pull-ups or?
They were mostly like she was doing like lunges, squats, push-ups, burpees. Just all sorts of horrible, painful things. From my perspective, I was like looking at it. I caught the tail end of it. It was just kind of wrapped up, and I went back and watched some of the replay, to see, because I saw the end. It was just like, whoa, he's got sweat coming off, and that's funny. Oh, he says Ironman's one of his fitness goals. Wow, I mean, it's kind of a peak thing, isn't it? I remember watching Ironman when I was. Was it Grant Kenny?
Yeah. So that's different. There we go. So we can educate the crowd here. So there's 2 different types of Ironman. There's Ironman, which is Grant Kenny, and that's the paddleboarding. It's surf lifesaving. And the reason that's called Iron is it's actually not. It was sponsored by Nutrigrain, and it was the Nutrigrain Ironman series. And that is different than doing an Ironman, which is a triathlon, and it's a swim, ride, run. So it's a 3K swim or 2.9 or something, a 180K ride and then a marathon, 42.2K run. So 2 different sports that are often confused, and Grant Kenny is an Ironman in the surf life-saving sense, but Ironman in the triathlon sense.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I knew the Nutri-Grain connection, of course, because that was back in the era of that was the heyday of advertising. Like, you're getting hammered with bloody ads left, right, and centre, and that's when you'd remember McDonald's was still allowed to advertise to you, and and they were just raking in all the kiddies, with all their adverts they were pumping out. They're still doing it somehow. I don't know how they actually do it, because my daughter even I think it's other kids at school, but like both of them, she's now polluted my son, and my wife is just appalled by this whole situation, because we'll sometimes be out and about somewhere and then they'll be going, "We want McDonald's," and I don't really give a shit like what other people think, but I think my wife feels like she's like, we don't want people to think we like this McDonald's family, and
Thankfully, my son still doesn't know what it is. So
oh, wow, good job.
I did give him a hash brown the other day when I was running late somewhere, and I got a bacon and egg McMuffin and he got a hash brown. I was like, oh, I've got no more time to get food. And he didn't really know what he thought of it. He threw half of it on the ground. So I went, well, that's a win. We won't do that again. We'll dodge that bullet.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, I think. It's just
your kid's not going to die from having an occasional McDonald's meal. Like, it's about if you have it every day and you have your upgraded soft drink and your upgraded fries and your ice cream to go with it, suddenly it becomes a bad thing. But if you occasionally have it as a family and you've got no more time to do anything else, nobody's perfect.
100%. Yeah, I think I like the whole cheat day kind of thing. Blake's just asking if this is live on YouTube as well. It should be, mate. It's showing that it is. I haven't gone over there to check. You could always bump on the air and you can reappear if you like and let us know whether it's actually working over there. I think that's it. You gotta allow yourself to have some of those food types that you want.
There's a thing called life, and you've got to live it.
Yeah, exactly right. So, for you, like dieting wise, like what does that, not dieting, as in the whole, let's diet to lose weight, but like more, I guess, sports nutrition.
It's a big part of what I do, working with people, particularly for sports nutrition, but it starts with the day-to-day, what are people having, and essentially what it comes down to is energy in, energy out. And, if people go to me, it gets to 3 o'clock and I'm really craving sugar or whatever it may be. And that's because you haven't eaten properly during the day. So it's, you think, I've got to eat less, or I've got to this, or I've got to that, and I've got a diet, or I'm on, some sort of restriction in my food. Any restriction in your food will create cravings later on in the day, and you have to be pretty switched on and pretty disciplined and miserable to be able to fight those cravings sometimes. So in terms of nutrition, it's eat as many vegetables as you can, not fruit. People find fruit as a really big trap. You only get 2, sometimes 3 serves a day, but what that looks like, a serve of fruit, half a rock melon is 1 serve of fruit, but 8 grapes is also 1 serve of fruit. So people go, I want some lollies, but I'm going to buy a bunch of grapes instead, and they demolish, 50 grapes. You go, that was 7 or 8 serves of fruit you just ate, and that's sugar. So it's just about knowledge. It's just about going, oh, wow, okay, so how can I be balanced? How can I get to a point where I'm not craving those sorts of things? So get up, eat breakfast, fuel your body. Your body needs fuel. Eat breakfast. Go, okay, I'm hungry again. I'm going to go eat something that has some vegetables in it. I might add I need some protein, so I'm going to have some meat if I don't get it from a vegetable source. So, we eat a vegetarian, 3 or 4 times a week, not because we're vegetarians, simply because we don't need as much meat. We're not, we often overestimate our protein requirements, and we get a lot from vegetables. Quite simply, meat for us holds a lot of calories that we don't necessarily need. But we all still need to get sources of iron and things like that, which are quite, you need a lot of abundance of plants to be able to get those levels. So, and with kids, sometimes it's much easier to make a bolognese than try and get him to eat a chickpea curry. Simple as that. So just dabble in whatever we need to do. But in terms of what a lot of people, the mistakes people make is they try and diet, and trying to diet results in not eating well, depriving your body of nutrients, and then blowing it basically. So breakfast, lunch and dinner, and if you're hungry in between, have a snack. Make it non-processed. Eat as close to nature as possible, and you can't go too wrong.
Yeah. What's your go-to? What's your go-to in terms of protein from the vegetarian perspective, or have you got any advice of resources? And Blake probably would have some good input on this as well. But I'm just, because I want to sort of experiment with something like that that's not purely vegetarian, but maybe a couple of days a week is. But I still want to probably be pretty high in protein. I guess I want to do what a lot of people, the average citizen, wants to do, which is I want to lose fat and either retain or ideally probably build a bit of muscle. I feel with the paddleboarding that it's doing that already. So I kind of think I just haven't dialed my diet in. Like, that's the only thing. Like, so like I'm getting fitter, and I noticed like muscles are sort of starting to come back, but I just have still been eating pretty terribly. So, and drinking too much, stuff like that.
Yeah, alcohol's an issue, isn't it? We have to limit ourselves to weekends at the moment.
Yeah.
We have to the wine and go, yep, okay, because otherwise it becomes a bit of a habit. Same with coffee. So in terms of protein, look, it's a whole nother 3 or 4 hour episode basically. But the term that you need to search for is plant-based. Instead of being vegetarian or vegan or, whatever it may be, look at recipes for plant-based, because that just means that it's higher concentration of plants. So that's where you get all your nutrients from, simple as that. You can eat a lot more food with a lot less calories, with a lot more diversity of nutrients if you eat plants, because they don't contain the calories. Whereas you might have one piece of meat and it's, a quarter of your daily calories, yet it's only got the nutrients that piece of meat has. Whereas, things like Buddha bowls and, whatever you want, burrito bowls, whatever you want, you can just throw a heap of stuff into a bowl and make some sort of pesto on it also, or some sort of satay sauce or something like that, and suddenly you've got you've got your peanuts with your satay, or you've got your chickpeas, or you've got all these things that are natural protein bases. It's more about upping your plants than decreasing your meat, so to speak.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. Because I almost got suckered into it. Well, maybe not suckered, maybe it's not the right term, but I watched a couple of documentaries on Netflix. This one particular guy talking about protein and how the gladiators were all plant-based protein and how it made them stronger, leaner, fitter. And I was like, whoa, hang on, I'm about to become a vegetarian. I was like,
yeah. Do you know what? Ignore everything you watch on YouTube. Ignore everything you watch on Netflix. Just the whole idea of plants is that you get more bang for your buck. You get more nutrients and more diversity of nutrients. You can't eat enough animal protein. Oh, you can, but it's to get the diversity of nutrients, you have to eat more, which fills you up and gives you more calories. So if you want to be a healthy person, I still have no problems with eating meat. Like I don't mind eating meat. I'm from a farm. Like I understand. I love nothing more than a big steak and chips with some mushroom sauce and some veggies on the side. That's one of my favorite meals. However, I don't need to eat it all the time. So it's about going, okay, get as many nutrients as I can in every meal, and to do that, plants are your key.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. I just noticed that we've come out close to
Yeah.
the hour, so I'd like to round it out just inside 1 hour, so it's less daunting for people to watch if they're going to tune in. If they're going to tune in later, thank you so much for coming and chatting and working through the technical hiccups at the beginning. And yeah, I definitely won't be a stranger if I'm cruising around. I can always pop in, say hello. Everybody, make sure you get down there, go past the post office, or come through past the jungly bit, as I call it.
My son thinks that there's dinosaurs in there, so just be careful.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a beautiful part of town. Just people need to be aware, and same thing with the business park. So let's all help each other out. Share if you like it. If you subscribe, please, and go in, and if you need some help with your fitness, your training, all those other things, then have a chat. Nice to talk to you. Thanks for coming.
Great, Brad. Appreciate your community part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.